Welcome to the show the podcast community has called Access Involvement. I'm your host, Billy Ferris, and I'm joined each week by a different staff member from the Office of Student Involvement. This week, it is Coordinator for Leadership Programs, Hannah Gerken. Hannah, how's it going?
Doing great. Just another day here.
All right. Is this your first podcast?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so you got to follow all the rules to a podcast.
Oh, gosh, I don't know the rules.
Rule number 1, talking to the mic.
Can do.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. That's all the rules.
There you go.
All right, so we're going to get started with giving the viewer a chance to get to know you a little bit better with our first segment, and that is called Pop Quiz. So we're going to have 7 rapid-fire questions. You're going to answer whatever pops into your head.
Got it.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
There are no rules to Pop Quiz, so whatever pops into your head, fire away. Question number 1, if you wrote an autobiography, what would you call it?
I feel like everyone's thing they love to talk about me is Texas, so probably something with that, maybe Made in Texas, the Hannah Gerken story.
Are you from Texas? You've never mentioned it.
Oh my gosh, it hasn't come up. I am absolutely
ever.
From Texas, yes.
All right. I would call mine, I should have stopped talking 5 minutes ago, the Billy Ferris story.
Oh, gotcha. So has the podcast gone 5 minutes yet?
No.
Oh, okay. We're good so far then.
We're still going. You've been in staff meetings. I say something and I say it like 4 more times.
Valid.
So, ouch. Number 2, if you hosted a late night talk show, who would you want as your first guest?
Probably Ben Rector, probably my all-time favorite music artist, and he's just like a really cool human and super fun, so I think he'd be a blast to have on a show.
Okay, so also then you have interview guests and music all set up.
Exactly.
So your whole show's planned out.
It's just great, ready to go.
There you go. I would go with Tom Brady. That's easy. It's my life's dream to hang out with Tom Brady. So if you're watching, come on down. I'd love to have you on the show. We'll leave out the Buccaneers thing. You'll come back to the Patriots. Please come back. Number 3. In my mind, he's watching this.
Always.
And that's my motivation to be good. Number 3, if you were DJing a wedding and your paycheck depended on getting everyone to dance, what song do you play?
Great question. Actually just went to a wedding recently.
I like when I ask good questions, so thank you for that.
That's a good one. So I think we talked about this as a family at the last wedding that I went to, and I would say that it depends where you're having the wedding. If you're having a wedding in Texas, talked about being from Texas, you have to start off with like a classic 2-step country song, like back to George Strait kind of vibes. Every single couple in the room will be up dancing. But if you're not in Texas, younger crowd, I feel like something like, as cliche as it is, Cupid Shuffle, YMCA, you're going to get people on the dance floor, and then it's like the second song that counts.
The second song counts, okay.
Well, if they're getting up to do the Cupid Shuffle, they're already out there, but you have to give them a reason to stay.
Okay.
But like YMCA, a little bit risky, they could do it from the table.
It just needs the arms.
That's true.
You just need
so
the
maybe
arms for
Cupid
that.
Shuffle.
Okay, Cupid Shuffle. I would do this song that's old, and it's the weirdest music video in the world, but it's called, I believe in a thing called Love by the Darkness. I'm pretty sure it's the only song they have.
What kind of dancing do you do to that?
I don't know, but have you heard it?
No.
I would just say, like, hear the first 5 seconds and tell me you don't get up.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
So it's, like, that's what I would go with. And it's also, I can't stress enough, don't watch a music video. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen on YouTube. It's super weird.
Good to know.
Number 4, when you were a little kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's easy. I wanted to be a teacher.
All right, why is that one so easy?
I grew up really in the world of education. Both my parents were teachers, so I was truly that person that was, as a kid, playing school with my sisters, of like giving them fake assignments, checking them out fake library books. So just always what I wanted to do.
Right, did you charge them overdraft fees or overdue fees if they were late returning them?
No, because the returning was like 30 seconds later. Then we were like returning the books and giving them back.
What subject would you have taught?
I actually went to college with my degree in English, so I wanted to be a high school English teacher. But back then, I had no idea what I wanted to teach.
Okay. I had it figured out when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
I was going to be a professional baseball player in the summer and a Ghostbuster in the winter.
Okay. We need some more Ghostbusters in the world.
3 years ago when I found out that wasn't a thing, it was really crushing. Number 5, are you a morning person or a night person?
I wish I was a morning person in the sense of like getting up, having a good routine, slow mornings kind of thing, but I never actually want to get out of bed early enough to do that. But I don't know that I'm really a night person either, because I like being in bed somewhat early and just relaxing. So maybe more of a night person, but honestly probably like middle of the day.
Middle of the day. There are no rules to pop quiz. So
yeah,
there it
you
is.
said that.
I used to be a morning person, and now like I still can't sleep past like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I used to go to bed early, and now I'm like up until 11 or 11:30 every night. So now I've become
too late.
I know, because I still wake up by 8 no matter what.
Yep.
Which on a weekday, like that's fine, but
Yeah.
it's not great because you get up early, you stay up late. Not a lot of time for the sleep.
Yeah, agreed.
So, Number 6, if you were on a deserted island, what 3 books would you bring with you?
Oh, gosh. I love books. That's actually a decently hard question. Let's see. One, I would find a book about how to get off of a deserted island. So hopefully I'd have that one with me because I have no idea all of the like signals and things. So maybe that would help me survive. I don't know that I'm the best like wilderness kind of person.
Do you watch like Bear Grylls Running Wild at all?
I've never even heard of that.
Okay, Bear Grylls, he had a show on the Discovery Channel, and now he's on NBC, and like he brings a celebrity somewhere deserted, and like they like survive and get to their like extraction point. It's awesome.
Yeah, never seen it. So I would need like a manual or something to do that.
Okay.
Let's see, cheating wise, I'd bring my Kindle and then have like all the entertainment in the world until I was saved from said deserted island.
Or until the battery ran out.
Well, okay, we're hoping that the book about how to get off the deserted island would help me before the battery ran out.
Okay.
No rules. Imaginative here, Billy.
No rules. Okay, that's fair.
And let's see, third book. Probably an all-time favorite. I'd bring like one of the Twilight books because yes, I do love Twilight, but they're also like a decently large book that I can burn if I need to for like warmth and fire.
Burn. No rules, but she's gonna have to burn one of her 3 books.
You've got to survive.
There's a flaw in your logic, is all I'm saying. But I would not bring the last of the Twilight books. I clearly haven't read any of them. But you have to bring like the second to last one because then like your motivation is like, well, now I want to read the end, so you have to get off the island. That's the strategy. You have to leave yourself motivation.
Okay.
In my world, that would be the only motivation for getting off the island.
Is to get to the next book.
Yes.
Okay.
You gotta
not survival, anything like that.
Well,
seeing people.
Right. If you are like, oh, there's another book, then like it's like.
But I've
there's
already
something.
read them all. I know the ending.
Yeah, but then things have happened if you're on deserted islands. Like, who knows what you remember by that point? Like, things have gone off the rails if you're on a deserted island. I would cheat on this one, and I would bring a big hollowed out book with a portable DVD player and all of my favorite movies and TV shows. And here's why. I can, first of all, feel the judgment. Second of all, I'm going to want to hear other voices.
Valid. But you asked me about the Kindle battery dying. How in the heck are you charging and powering all of your electronics?
There are no rules to pop quiz, as I was reminded. So it's going to solar powered portable DVD player.
Okay.
Got her.
Okay.
So last question. Now that we're done with that argument, would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the smartest person in the room?
Funniest for sure.
Why?
I'm not a naturally funny person, but I genuinely think like the world needs more laughter and smiling, and I'd rather bring that than just have like the knowledge.
All right, I would do neither.
Oh.
Because here's my thought for that. If you are the smartest person in the room, it doesn't mean everyone else is going to understand the things you're saying. If you are the funniest person in the room, people might not get your jokes. So I would like feel strongly that I would want to be the second funniest or second smartest person in the room because you're then the one that gets all of the stuff the smartest person is saying, but like you still have like something to aspire to.
So just like middle of the road?
Not middle, second.
Second, specifically second.
Or third, but second is what I would go for. Okay. And then I am the person that the smartest person or the funniest person like looks to when they like do their stuff.
Gotcha.
And then so like I kind of feel special still, but there's someone better than me in the room still.
Less pressure, no expectations.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
I can go with that.
And you don't want to be, we talked about this on the last episode, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room because then you need to find a new room.
That's a good point.
Same thing happens with funny, I think.
Valid.
So I would do neither. So that was a trick question. But that's the end of Pop Quiz. And you passed.
Wow, I'm so glad.
Everyone has so far. That's good.
Amazing.
I don't know what happens if people don't pass.
How do you fail pop quiz?
I guess you just don't answer the questions.
Like just sit here and do nothing.
Yep.
I probably could have done that pretty well though.
Yeah, but then I would have had to answer for you, and who knows what I would have said.
Not a bad thing.
It could have been a bad thing. You never know. You never know. All right, but we are going to move on from Pop Quiz, and we're going to get into our next segment, and that is called Let's Get Personal, where we are going to learn about you. Later, we're going to talk about what you do here, what your job is, students you work with, all that stuff. Right now, we're going to talk about how you got here. So as we always do on Access Involvement, we're going to start with the start. Where are you from? Because I can't remember it. You've never mentioned it. And how was it growing up there?
Yeah, so I am from Gainesville, Texas. It is right on the border of Texas and Oklahoma, pretty far north in Texas. It is what I used to think was a small town, but now have realized it's not quite as small as I thought it was. But it was really great. My mom's entire family is from there, so I grew up with my grandparents and my great-grandparents and aunts and everyone around town. But also meant like everyone knows everybody. Everybody knew my whole family history and had all known us. So a lot of times I was like Buster's granddaughter versus being like, oh, hey, I'm Hannah. But it was amazing, super great. I loved having my parents around and my grandparents around. They were at like every game I ever had. I had one of my parents as a teacher from 6th grade through graduating high school because it's just that kind of a small town. So I absolutely loved it.
So every game you had, what game? What games were those?
Yes, yeah. I played volleyball and softball in high school, and then in middle school I also played basketball, but that was not a great experience.
Basketball wasn't a great experience?
No, I'm not good at basketball. Please do not recruit me for any basketball team ever.
Noted, I guess. I don't know what basketball team I recruit for. But
I mean, anytime. If you ever are playing sports outside the office, you do not want me on a basketball team.
Noted.
Yeah.
So you said like you were known as like Buster's granddaughter, or that like is that something that you liked, or is that or like no, I am Hannah?
Yeah, I think I never really minded that piece of it. I think probably harder was I had an older sister who was a year above me, and like so we were always at the high school together and middle school together, all of that. So it took a while to not just be like, oh, you're the second Gerken, because we did a lot of the same things. It was a small school, so if you're involved in one thing, you're involved in everything. But I think now I appreciate all of like everything that they set out for me beforehand. But probably at the time, I'm sure that angsty teenage Hannah hated it a little bit.
I can relate to that because
Yeah.
my sister is 3 years older than me, and I was Julie's brother
Yes.
for the majority of high school. And like she was also, if we're being honest, a better student than me. So like I would frequently get like, oh, you're not like your sister. And like she was the president of the National Spanish Honor Society. They never let me forget. My parents come for the parent-teacher night, and, oh, Julie's parents, even though I'm the one in the class at that point, Billy was not prepared for his quiz today.
Oh,
It was a pop quiz. You're not supposed to be prepared for a pop quiz.
Hey, what's
As
even
we
harder,
just demonstrated on this very show.
True. But even harder, I'll raise you one, is when your parents are actually in the building. So when that happens,
Can't get
they
away
just
with anything.
walk down the hallway and they take you with them to your dad's classroom. That's different.
That is different.
Yeah.
My big victory was my sister she was also like a captain on the swim team, and she had to come do the morning announcements on TV one day, and that was like the one time that it was Billy's sister, not Julie's brother.
Nice.
And that
nice.
was cool because
We all need that.
she just like fumbled through the teleprompter, and that was fun. But so you said your parents worked at the school, so like did that make you like troublemaker, not troublemaker? Do you make like I have to follow every single rule because they're right there?
I mean, probably more of, I don't think I was a troublemaker in general, so I think followed the rules, but that also just was who I was naturally. I think it definitely made it more of like expectations were there that if I ever did get in trouble or like needed something, like they were going to make sure they knew that my parents were right there. Because my mom was in where I went to middle school and my dad was at the high school. And he was also my coach too. So I think the harder part was during like athletics, having him around or being like him yelling at me to keep going. That was a little harder.
All right. And then you graduate high school.
Yes.
I assume. Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
And where do you go to college?
I went to Texas A&M University down in College Station.
All right. And what was that like? What major experience?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was the best. I went in, I was one of those students that changed my major multiple times. So I still wanted to be a teacher, but in Texas, if you want to be a high school teacher, you major in the subject you want to teach. So originally I started off chemistry because I loved chemistry in high school. Realized that what I liked about chemistry was the math part of it, not the actual like science aspect. So I switched to math my second semester. Then I realized I would never teach anything higher level than what I'd already learned in college, and I didn't want to take math classes about like third dimensions that I'd never would really understand. Yep. And I'd always loved to read and write, so I ended up switching to English at the start of my sophomore year. And I did graduate with my bachelor's in English finally, so my parents were very excited once I stopped changing my major every single semester. I was also very excited about that, so I probably was the most advanced English major within like math and science classes because I took chem and math major things versus like everyone else took very easy math classes. But it was super involved, did a ton of different organizations and absolutely loved it. A&M is very unique in all of our traditions and spirit, but that's really what I loved about it. I was the person at all of the football games, at all the traditions, all of those things, and truly loved it.
Right, you lost me at math and science. I didn't. It just it.
What?
Because I went back to flashbacks of like taking math and science classes, and that is not how my brain works.
Yep.
So like I knew I picked like I wanted to do media stuff from pretty early on, but I think part of that was like very little math, very little science.
Yeah, I look back and I'm like, I cannot believe I took like chem major chemistry because it's a whole other level than like entry level chemistry for most students. And wow, lab reports every week. That just feels like an entirely different past life.
No, yeah. Once math starts getting letters involved and like multiple different alphabets, I'm out.
Yep.
So yeah, that wasn't going to happen. You said you were really involved.
Yes.
As a college student. So what? And that's been a consistent theme on every episode where people have said like, I am that involved person, or I was super involved, which has been an unsurprising theme on this show within this office. But talk about what your involvement was, what you were involved with, and kind of what that experience was like.
Yeah, so when I got to A&M, I was very much like I was a big fish in a little pond in high school, and got to A&M, and I was a very little fish in a very big pond. A&M has about 60,000 undergrad students.
Which is, just for those watching, about twice the size of undergrads at Auburn, just for comparison's sake.
So I applied to a lot of organizations that everyone was like, oh, if you're a freshman, you need to be in this, and got rejected from all of them at the start. So it was definitely kind of a moment of like, oh my gosh, reality of just being in a larger place. So the first thing I actually got involved in was a Catholic sorority with the church that I went to in College Station, St. Mary's. And really that kind of gave me a little more confidence, got me hooked into a group of friends. I was also highly involved in the student organization that went along with the scholarship that I was on at A&M. So the Terry Scholars Foundation, was involved in that, of just going to things. Then sophomore year kind of started stepping up, taking some bigger roles of staying involved in those, being an officer, but I also then quickly jumped into the almost like over-involved status. I joined the Maroon and White Leadership Program, which we'll talk about more about like what emerges later, but was very similar to Emerge here at Auburn. I became a tour guide on campus for the Visitor Center. I was a journalism minor, so I wrote for the Battalion A&M student newspaper.
So this is just like an old habit for you then?
No, that is written versus like out loud. This is very, very different.
It's all words.
Yeah, I would disagree, but wrote for them. Oh my gosh, there was other things. I know. I'm blanking now. There was other things. It was one of those times where I pretty much every night of the week had some kind of meeting for a student organization, and just loved them all, which meant I just wanted to keep doing them. So
that's a lot. If you're blanking, like I know there was more and you can't, like that's a lot more. I was very strictly like the media stuff. Like I did Eagle Eye, I did Weagle, I did the Plainsman a little bit, but like I was like within this world, and apparently I'm just not gonna leave this world.
Hey.
But like if I could go back and do it differently, I probably would have stretched myself and done like a few different involvement things, like other than just like one-time things.
Gotcha.
Like we did like Habitat for Humanity one time, and I realized like I'm not going to be able to build a house. So like that's, that was like a one-time thing. I was like, let's leave that to be a structure that stands for people. And I like just kind of kept in my media bubble and wish I had maybe stretched a little bit further than that. Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently when you were in college?
I definitely loved having all the different experiences like you're talking about. I mean, I was in a lot of different even types of organizations, so I developed a lot of different skills and got to do different things. But I think there definitely is a beauty to having a balance, and I wish I would have given myself a chance to have a little bit more balance of just having more like free time, to have just more fun in college, to do those random things where someone texts you and is like, hey, let's go do this crazy thing. And I was often the one that was like, oh, sorry, I can't, I've got a meeting, or we've got something going on. And I do wish that I had a little bit more of that balance. So finding something that you can get really deeply involved in, and also having a few other things, but still giving yourself some free time to just be a college student.
So I think a lot of our college students don't understand how much free time they have.
Yeah.
And like I think like they're like, because I know when I came out, I was like, oh, I don't have a lot of free time. And I came out of college, and I was like, oh, there was a lot of free time.
Oh yeah,
and there was so much more I could have done. Like all those times you're just like sitting there with your friends is free time. You
oh, absolutely. Well, and I think too, just like going back and thinking, using your time better, which I totally know myself in college would not have done this. Every single semester I aspired to and didn't, but like the awkward couple hours you have in the middle of the day, using that to do homework instead of saving it for the evening, when then you have to like make that choice between doing your homework, studying for a test, or going and having some fun with friends. So we have that free time. It's just in really awkward places.
Very true. You graduate from A&M?
Yes.
Do what?
So going into my senior year was deciding between whether I wanted to do a master's program to finish off my teacher certification to teach high school English. But then also at that point, I had gotten to know really a pretty pivotal like mentor in my life through that Maroon and White Leadership Program, where she kind of was the one who said, you really love this involvement stuff. Did you know you can do that full time? And introduced me to that world. So I was deciding between which master's program I wanted to do. So ultimately, I chose student affairs, which is how I'm here today. So I ended up staying at Texas A&M to do my master's there. I was a graduate assistant in the Leadership and Service Center and got to keep working with Maroon and White that I had gone through, as well as advising a leadership conference for first-year students. So I stayed there for 2 more years, did a couple internships in that time as well. I was an intern with A&M's orientation program, and then also went to Raleigh, North Carolina to do that for North Carolina State University. Go Pack to all of any Go Pack NC State people listening. But
Big viewership from NC State here.
Absolutely.
On this podcast,
we'll make sure they're listening. But Raleigh was amazing. It was kind of the first time for me, since I had stayed at A&M, to do something totally crazy, go out of state, which to most people might not be that crazy, but for someone who'd been in Texas their whole life, it definitely was. And just absolutely loved it. Loved the experience, getting to be away for a bit. So
Texas has like its own culture for sure, right?
Yeah.
That's fair to say.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep. So was there an element of culture shock? Because like when I moved, and I talked about it, so I'm not going to go into it because I've talked about it in a previous episode, and I just assume everyone watches every episode because I like.
Of course, they're subscribers. Right?
I like to think that
Yeah.
they're subscribers, viewers. What's the difference? But I had a culture shock from Boston to Atlanta because
Yeah.
it was very different. Texas, in some ways, like its own country. Sometimes
Some may say that. Yes.
Is it? Some will say that. I will say that. Going from Texas to North Carolina, was there an element of culture shock?
Yes, in some ways. I think for me, it was maybe not necessarily culture shock because, for one, when you're doing an internship in student affairs, like my time was spent in orientation with NC State. That was a lot of the time. So I think for me, it was, for one, being in a city for the first time because NC State is in Raleigh, which Raleigh is North Carolina's capital. So just being in a city was different, of just like skyscrapers a few blocks down from me, when even, yes, College Station where A&M is large, but it still feels like a small town. So there was like that element of culture shock. I think overall, I mean, a little bit different, but I don't know that I was like in North Carolina enough to feel that difference, other than just the difference of being away.
Like, did you ever find yourself like using terminology that people are like, what are you talking about?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. My students that I worked with were really confused why I didn't have a stronger Texas accent. They wanted to know why I didn't sound like more Texan, I guess is the way to say it.
Like what you see in movies.
Yes. Yeah. Like we don't all walk around with like riding
Short
horses
rant
to
about
school
that.
and things.
Short rant about that for TV.
Yes.
And this is unrelated to the podcast. Fast forward if you don't want to hear this 30 seconds or so. It annoys me that every TV show set in the South is like thick Southern accents, overly stereotypical, yet there's like A Million Little Things is a show set in Boston, not a single Boston accent. Every show in the world is set in New York, not a single New York accent.
That's actually so true, and I've never thought of that.
You'll never unhear it now.
Yeah. And I love A Million Little Things, so now it's going to bother me that I can't hear a Boston accent.
They don't have a Boston accent.
Yeah.
And it's also very clearly not Boston.
Well,
but
I've
they
never-
do sometimes
never
wear
been to Boston,
they,
so I couldn't tell you.
They do sometimes wear Patriot shirts, and I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah.
But that might or might not be why I watch the show. But they don't have Boston accents.
No, I
Yet
agree.
you put a show in the South, and it's like they're in the 1800s on a plantation the way they talk.
Yeah, no,
And
my
that
students, I
bothers
think,
me.
definitely expected that. I'd also say, too, one of the things that is hard for me to still not say that they thought was so funny is to say howdy. So it's not because of the, like, country growing up on a ranch howdy kind of style, but, like, that's what A&M's, like, official greeting is. And it's actually the easiest way to get a room to be quiet. So my natural inclination when I'm, like, wanting to quiet an audience is to yell howdy, or like starting an email or anything like that. So my students thought that was the most like Texas thing, was that I wanted to say howdy all the time.
So here, when you think howdy, say War Eagle, same thing happens.
It's just
Feel
like,
quieter,
but
right?
I don't start an email saying War Eagle.
That would be strange.
Yeah.
You could get a room to get quiet with that, I think.
Okay, I'll have to try it out at
Maybe.
like one of the orientations.
Try it out and then ask yourself, is he messing with me or will it work?
Very true.
And we don't know until you try it.
Never know.
So what is something leaving, like, so you go, you get your master's, and then you obviously end up here.
Yeah.
What's something like away from work you like to do?
Yeah, I talked about like I love to read, big reader. I do that pretty much every day at some point. It's a good just like relaxer for me. Also love Pilates, big fan of Pilates. I am in no ways like amazing at it, but I've enjoyed it. I am a forever aspirational runner. Will eventually get there. I want to run a half marathon at some point in my life. And before quarantine, I was getting pretty close. I was training for it, and then our race got canceled, and motivation was lost there for a bit. So eventually would like to get back to running, but I also just love like exploring, traveling, hiking, whatever those things. I think that's something I've enjoyed about Alabama is how much there is like around in the area that you can get to quickly. Texas is so big that to get to anything, it sometimes takes you 6 to 7 hours to get there. So I love that it's like 2 hours away. You can get to a state park and see something totally different. So I love to do that on the weekend.
Do you have a favorite place you've gone to around here?
So far, Cheehaw has been really cool. I've really liked Cheehaw, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. But there's also up a little bit farther, I think it's in northeast Alabama is where we went. Little River Canyon, I think was what it was called. That was absolutely gorgeous in the fall with like the changing leaves colors. It's great.
Did you pick up any pandemic habits, like hobbies or anything?
No, I really didn't. Not really.
That was like my point of pride during like when everyone was like super locked down.
Yeah.
I like watched at least one YouTube tutorial every week to try to learn something new every week because
Like,
that
I
was the
wish
way
I
I would
would
like
have.
keep myself engaged.
Yeah. I mean,
Ask me how many of those things I can actually still do because
True.
not any of them. But like that was my goal during the pandemic. And then like I got like, really into a hobby for a week and then kind of forgot it existed before I had a chance to actually do the hobby.
I mean, I did make sourdough bread from scratch one time. Like, or not, I think it was homemade bread, not sourdough. One time I made homemade bread, but it was like multiple months after everyone was doing it. So I don't know if that really counts.
I think we can count it.
Okay, so there's one hobby that I could
during the
maybe
pandemic.
redo.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So how has your experience in student involvement been? You finished your first year full time here.
Yeah.
So without going too into specific about the actual job, like how has the general experience been?
Overall, I mean, it's been awesome. It's been a super fun office to come into. It's a lot of young professionals, which was really great coming from moving somewhere entirely new and not knowing anyone to come in with a lot of other people. It's a blast. Every day is different. We spend a lot of our time laughing and having fun while getting the work done. So I've really enjoyed it and have enjoyed getting to know the students.
And then coming in for a year that was far from normal was probably a bit of a challenge.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I think that is where still having a bunch of young professionals around was great because I didn't come in and just have to be there alone. When we were still not working in the office, we were all like able to talk and connect outside of that work time. And honestly, I mean, I think too was really cool to see how the office adapted. It's really easy to see how an office functions when it's used to doing the same thing over and over. But I think I was very impressed by how well our office specifically adapted to things.
For sure. All right, so we're going to end Let's Get Personal, and we're going to ask some different questions now, not about you.
Okay.
But we are going to go into midterms,
Oh, gosh.
which are 10 trivia questions I've designed especially for you.
Oh,
Our
no.
producer has perked up. Like to see that. So I'm going to ask you 10 trivia questions, and I'm going to keep the standings, which will be coming on your screen right now. And you can see that Alexis Davis is currently in the lead with 6 out of 10.
A queen.
Then Amy and Pearson are tied with 5
Ooh,
for
okay.
second. So to get on the podium, you need to get 5.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
And there are 10 questions. Are you ready for midterms?
Absolutely not, but let's go.
Not a good strategy, students. Study for midterms. They're important.
But they
Just
know-
as important as finals.
They know the topics. I don't know them.
I mean, I feel like you know the topics a little bit.
I mean, I know myself.
And that's the topic. Kind of.
Kind of.
Kind of. All right. I didn't ask for attitude. Don't know why I'm getting it. Number 1. You went to Texas A&M.
Yes.
Who holds the highest ranking in the Texas A&M Corps of Cadets?
It is Reveille. She's a five diamond general, so she's the highest ranking member. She is also a purebred collie, so she's actually a dog.
Okay. I was not going to make you say the rank, but since you did, it's still worth just 1 point.
What? That was such a lead up for thinking I was going to get bonus.
I know.
That's just cruel.
But nope. Number 2. This is multiple choice.
Okay.
But if you want to be like Pearson last week and just say the answer before the multiple choice options get said,
I don't know.
that's
I don't
fine
want to
too.
get it wrong.
How many canals are located in Amsterdam? Because you said we didn't cover this, but you studied abroad. You spent
Yes.
time in Amsterdam.
Oh
I
my
assume you
gosh.
counted the canals.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So the choices are 100, 143, 165, 203. I'm going to give you those one more time. How many canals
gosh.
are located in Amsterdam? 100, 143, 165, 203.
You know, I don't have a good guess here, so I'm going to go with a tactic I learned in high school of when in doubt, see your way out. So I'll go with C. 100, what was it, 65?
Yep.
Was it right?
Yep.
Yes! There you go. That's my tip to all students. When in doubt, see your way out. Actually, don't do that. Please don't do that on your exams.
I would not do that at all.
Yes.
I would not look for patterns. As someone who has written multiple choice tests, I would not look for patterns.
You know,
Because I can promise you I don't think about it. There was one time I wrote a test that had like 4 in a row of the same, and I didn't think about it, and people like purposely changed their answer away from the right one because they
Wow.
thought like it would be a trick, and I kind of felt bad about it. Didn't give them the points
you know,
back.
it worked today, at least.
It
for
did
now.
work today,
Yeah.
and you have 2, which also means you're now in a tie for last of everyone that's gone.
Okay, at least I got 2. You know,
So you are
that's
not
something.
going to be the worst.
Okay, I can live with that.
Number 3, the phrase "Don't mess with Texas." Are you familiar?
I've heard it.
Okay, you've heard it. "Don't mess with Texas" was originally part of a marketing campaign. Multiple choice again. What was that marketing campaign for? Littering, recycling, texting and driving, eating local.
A, littering.
Littering, you knew that, didn't you?
Yeah, but the recycling threw me off for a minute, so I got nervous. But it's on like a barrel, like a red and white and blue barrel, and it says it in the middle.
Okay, so we're 3 for 3.
Yes.
All right, you said you're a fan of the show Glee.
Yes.
Sue Sylvester always calls one character by the wrong name every time for the first 2 seasons. What character is it?
Oh my gosh, I'm literally blanking on his name, but I can Kurt Hummel.
Emma Pillsbury.
What? Ugh, I feel like she also calls Kurt the wrong name. Emma Pillsbury.
Every time.
Interesting.
Every time in the first 2 seasons.
Good to know. I'll have to
All right.
rewatch that.
So 3, except for the pilot, because that's the catch. But still no point. Number 5. Your family's heritage is from Germany.
Oh gosh, yes.
What is the national animal of Germany?
That should be a multiple choice question.
I also asked this question for everyone, so like research would have paid off here.
I haven't listened to the podcast yet.
How
They're not up.
dare you?
They're not up yet, are they?
Yeah, they're on YouTube.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. I was waiting for them to come out on Spotify, you know, the natural place for podcasts. Let's see. I remember one person saying theirs was a unicorn, so I know it's not a unicorn because they are not from Germany.
Correct. They are not originally from Germany.
Oh, gosh.
Little known fact.
Yep.
I've given at least one hint to everyone.
Okay,
So I will
give
give
me
you
a
a
hint.
hint. You would find it in the air.
Oh, gosh.
It's not a great hint, but it's a hint.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Well, like unicorn, I'm thinking, okay, let's go mythical and be dragons, but I don't think it's dragons either. But,
Please guess dragon.
I'm not guessing dragons. But like, if I say bird, you're not going to give it to me because that's too general.
Correct.
Dang it. It's not bald eagle because like that's America. Shoot. I don't know. A pigeon?
Pigeon
I don't know.
is a federal eagle.
A federal. That sounds like something American. That's just really interesting.
You know.
Okay.
Number 6. You also like the show Revenge.
Yes.
We're still at 3
Totally
points.
underrated show, I would have to
Okay.
say.
I've seen the last season.
It's just really
good.
terrible that you've only seen the last season.
I feel like I got where it was going. Which 2 characters were married in real life? Looking for character names, not actor names.
Daniel is the guy, and then her real name's Amanda, but on the show she's actually going by Emily.
Her real name is actually Emily, too.
It is also actually Emily. Emily Van Camp and Josh Van Camp, but
Okay. Yep. Daniel and Emily.
yes.
Yep. Okay. So that's 4. Okay.
Getting close.
Getting close. We have 4 questions left. So
We can do
now
this.
it's getting tense.
Yes.
I assume everyone cares about this more than anything else in the office.
I think so,
Yeah.
completely.
Everyone wants to win.
Yeah.
Everyone loves to win. All right. You
Is
are.
there a trophy involved?
There could be a trophy involved.
Okay.
There is a prize involved.
Amazing.
Undetermined what the prize is going to be.
That's okay.
But you're getting ahead of yourself. You only have 4.
True.
Let's
True.
just check the ego. Texas. Number 7. Your first job was a lifeguard.
Yes.
How many beats per minute should you do for chest compressions during CPR? And I will accept a range here.
Beats per minute.
Our
Oh my
producer looks very confused and displeased with that question.
Oh my gosh. There's a song that they told us to sing.
I'm going to tell you the song because I don't think it's going to help.
No, don't tell me the song. Actually, yes, tell me the song.
Apparently, I'm not running this podcast. The song is Staying Alive.
Yes.
And if you can get the beats from hearing the song title, then that's impressive and you deserve the point.
I think it's 14 chest compressions, and then you do the 2 breaths of life, and then you go back to 14, or was it 10? So you said I can give a range. So my range is 10 to 15.
100 to 120.
That is not true. I can confirm
Beats,
for
that
a
is
fact.
true. 100 to 120 beats per
What do you
minute.
call beats per? Okay. Well, I was counting chest compressions, not beats per minute. I guess I was saying like chest compressions.
compressions,
Yes, like
yeah.
how much I would do on the victim.
Nope.
I still think that is a pretty great knowledge.
I mean, we'll
It
see.
would save someone's life.
That is true.
Yes.
Okay,
So
fair.
therefore a point.
No. No point. I already have one at the review board. We can't have a second at the review board. All right, number 8. We're still producer. We at 4 points. Number 8. All previous reveillees at Texas A&M are buried in the same spot on campus. Where is that spot and why?
They are buried on the north end of Kyle Field. So outside of the stadium, there is a little bit, like a little plot of land. And there's actually, so they're buried there so they can see, they like be able to watch the game. So there's a little bitty scoreboard at the bottom of the little Reveille cemetery that is actually like updated with the score during the game.
Correct. Both still only worth 1 point.
But it was a great answer.
I mean, any
thorough.
right answer is the great answer.
But I think it was really thorough.
It was still just 1 point.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Number 9. What's older? Texas's statehood or Austin becoming its capital? Which one happened first?
It feels like a trick question because I feel like you had to be a state before you get a capital. But because that seems so straightforward, it makes me second guess it. Oh, gosh. I mean, I feel like I have to trust my gut and go with Texas's statehood. But you're going to tell me now that it's wrong, right?
I need to know what your actual final answer is first. You do not sound committed here.
I'm going to trust the logic that it has to be a state before it gets a capital. So the statehood.
Nope.
How in the heck?
Austin became the capital in 1839. Texas became a state in 1845.
Jeez, Texas.
Yep. So still at 5. We have one left.
Oh my gosh.
The longest women's college World Series game ever was 25 innings long in 1984. Who won that game?
I keep hitting the microphone. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We'll charge you for it. I will give you a hint that the team they beat was Cal Poly Pomona. And I will tell you that hint is not going to help at all.
No, it doesn't help at all.
I will tell you it's going to be very funny to me if you miss it.
Jeez. Now, again,
Which could be messing with your head.
it is messing with my
Or
head.
could be a helpful hint. You
Messing
just
with
don't
my
know.
head because my gut wants to say OU, one of the strongest programs in softball history for college. But the way that you say that it would be funny if I missed it, makes me think it should be A&M, but I don't remember A&M softball doing that. I think I would have heard about that. Oh gosh. My dad, the softball coach, is going to be really disappointed if I get this wrong. We'll go OU.
A&M.
No! Oh my gosh.
Texas A&M.
I knew the logic. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yep. Talked yourself out of the last 2 questions. It's the difference of
did.
being in first place by yourself and being in a tie for second.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Don't trust logic, apparently.
There's your advice.
Here's your advice.
Don't
trust the
trust
logic.
logic. So 5, still pretty good though.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's a tie. What are we saying?
Tie with Amy and Pearson.
A tie with Amy and Pearson.
Yeah.
Correct. So you're in a tie with Amy and Pearson. So you're all in second, third, and fourth place.
So is there going to be like a tiebreaker? Are you going to bring all of us back on for like rapid round trivia?
Are you wanting to come back on? Is what you're saying?
We'll see.
There will be a tiebreaker if certain events take place. We have to see how the rest of the standings end first,
Okay.
and that's as detailed as I can be. Okay. After that, we're gonna call it a good performance in trivia because 5 out of 10 is pretty good in trivia.
Yeah, I feel like it.
I feel like that's better than you thought you were gonna do.
Probably. I'm just really annoyed that I talked myself out of the last 2 questions.
It was a wild ride to watch from here, looking at the answers.
I mean, and I had the logic there. I just,
Yep.
thought it all through.
Should have just multiple choice C.
See,
Then
but
could've
you
been
didn't
right.
give me multiple
I
choice.
did not give you multiple choice.
So
Would have been a pretty bad answer at that point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, we're going to move into now Let's Get Professional.
Okay.
Where we are going to talk all about your job, the students you work with, and what you do here.
absolutely.
So you're the coordinator for leadership programs. You primarily advise Emerge at Auburn.
Yes.
Just talk about kind of what that is, what they do.
Yeah, so Emerge at Auburn is Auburn's student-run leadership program with the goal of just helping all Auburn students recognize and grow their leadership potential. We truly believe that Auburn students are going to be some of the ones to go out and change the world in their different career paths, whether it's in politics, medicine, education, all of those things. So we want to help everyone have the skills to be a leader, both during their time here at Auburn and different student organizations and beyond. So we do that we've got weekly meetings that they can attend through our different phase programs to really get to know a small group of students and get to learn more about themselves, but also some kind of quicker events, whether it's a retreat they can go to for over the weekend and learn more about leadership, or our Leadership Lunch and Learn series throughout the year where they can come get some free food, which in college we know is always amazing.
Even after college.
I mean, yeah, free food. So come get a free lunch, hear from some of our experts on different like leadership topics and skills that they can then take back to their organizations. So it's got a lot to it.
That's one of the things I like about all of the groups here is, like, yes, there are ways to be heavily involved and do a ton of things, but then there's also those things like the lunch and learns or the retreats that, okay, this is something I'm interested in, but maybe I don't want to spend all my time doing it, and there's like one-time things people can go to. That's something I appreciate about really all of our organizations, is there are those one-time opportunities too.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is unique about leadership programs in general is I have, students who are super involved in Emerge and have gone through it, that are team leaders and student leaders and all of those things. But really, leadership programs is meant to be a layer on top of what you're already doing to help sharpen you and prepare you to be a leader in other organizations. It's not meant to be your only involvement.
Almost like a launching pad.
Yes.
Because you're then saying, like, okay, here are all these leadership skills. Now go put those to use all over campus, after college, everywhere. And it makes it, I think, probably hard to measure success in a way, too. Because same thing down here with student media. We have so many students who come in as a freshman and they get all these skills. And then you think like, okay, do you retain these students for 4 years? But by their senior year, a lot of the time down here, they're working at local papers, local TV stations. Like we don't have them, which is success, but in a different kind of way. Because, okay, we lost these students, but it's because we prepared them to then go do bigger things. Have you also found that to be the case? I know this was your first year here, but do you see that also kind of being what Emerge does where you don't necessarily want them for 4, not that we don't want you to be around for 4 years, but we don't necessarily want you with us for 4 years because if you're with me for 2 or 3 years, I want you to go do something bigger than that in your 4th year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, because our success is a student who comes in and maybe doesn't see themselves as a leader, thinks they can only be a leader if they have a title, but they're coming out knowing I don't have to have a title to be a leader. I can be a leader in every single space and room that I'm in. But maybe they find like, oh my gosh, I love working with campus kitchens. So I want to go and I want to be involved in campus kitchens. And eventually they're going to be the president of that organization. That is success, even though they're not still in Emerge, but they've been able to take what we've learned and apply it to what they really are passionate about.
I like that you say like you don't have to have a position to be a leader because I think that's one of the most important things for people to know is you do not need to wait for a position to act like and be a leader within an organization.
Absolutely.
Right. So if that is your answer to this next question, you can be like, hey, pay attention to when I talk to you and know that that's my answer and that's fine. But the next question I have is like, what's something about leadership that you found most people don't know?
I would say that's definitely one of them, but I can add to it and go different. That I think leadership, something that I learned through my time in undergrad with Marin and White that was really brought into it. And then I've also seen with the students that I work with in Emerge. Leadership, yes, it's important about the things that you do in the moment, but it's also just as important for what you're doing after or before. So reflection is a huge part of leadership. And I think that's often the thing we overlook the most. So taking time to think about how did I handle a situation? What went right? What went wrong? What can I do better? How did what happened change what I believe about myself or about myself as a leader? And I think that reflection piece is really hard to, or really easy to miss whenever we're constantly trying to get things done and move on to the next task. Taking that moment with someone you trust to really talk about, like, what did I do wrong or how can I grow? That's the make or break point for how you go from being a good leader to being an exceptional leader.
Right. What makes someone a good leader? Give me some more qualities, because I know you kind of just said that. But
yeah, I think
someone found a way to read ahead from across the table.
I really didn't, I promise. It differs for everyone. And I think some of the big pieces that I would put into it are the ability to listen and to practice empathy with others. If you are a leader, whether you're in a position or not, you're interacting with others. So being able to take into account their feelings and thoughts. I think also to
she says being able to listen because she knows I wasn't listening to the last answer. I think is what just happened.
Maybe
that was personal.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. That hurts a little.
I think also like having the desire to develop others, it's really about how do you equip and empower the people around you to get things done and to find success, not about the success that you're finding. So I think that is what can make a really strong leader. I think also too, just wanting everyone to be involved and wanting it to be a space that everyone feels comfortable in is a huge aspect of being a leader. Because if people don't want to follow you or don't want to be around you, who are you leading? I'd say also like just bringing in creativity and thinking outside of the box and just being excited and passionate about what you're doing.
I feel like sometimes with leadership too, sometimes a good leader knows like when they should follow. And like it doesn't need to be their thing all the time.
Oh yeah, you can be there as your role, if you're really at the top of an organization, it's not about what you're getting done. It's about what you're helping the other people around you to get done. You're there to bounce ideas off of, to keep the big ship running, but ultimately you're letting everyone find their own success.
Right. What's been the biggest surprise about the job so far?
Ooh, good
And
question.
let's say, like, let's take COVID out of it. Because I think, like, we all face, like, 100 different surprises from COVID. But, like, let's, aside from that, what's been the biggest surprise?
I think it's been really, I don't know, I guess surprises, not surprise in the sense of, like, I didn't think it would happen, but just every time it does happen, it, like, brings a lot of joy. It just really gets me excited of hearing how much going through a program like Emerge affects students. So when they get to come back and say, like, this actually, I feel so much better about who I am as a person or how I'm able to speak in front of a group, getting to actually hear, like, tangible moments. I didn't expect that in my first year to have built, like, that deep of relationships with students and get to hear that. But those are some of my favorite moments of reading through that Emerge made an impact on the year, especially during this year, that they were able to still find community here at Auburn and feel like they have a chance to make a difference while they're here.
Yep. And I know I said leaving COVID out of it, but I think because of what we all went through, I think bonds with students, friends, everything, I think bonds were, like, deeper because, like, we are in this together and we're going to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And I think that happened because I know I had students, I think you probably had the same thing, that I had some freshman students that said, like, all my classes are online. Mm-hmm. The only reason I have to come to campus is my involvement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it's like we were, in some ways, like, our office was the college, like, as normal as it can be for people.
Yeah, it really was.
Last year.
No, it totally, absolutely was.
And I think that made the bonds, like, I've seen it with, like, students to other students, students to advisors. Like, the bonds, I think, are deeper because of the way this year was.
I agree.
What's been the most challenging part of the job? And I always preface this every time I ask this, challenging does not mean negative or bad.
Yeah.
Challenging can help us grow. It can make us better. So I'm not asking what the worst part is. I'm asking what the most challenging part has been.
Yep.
And again, I'm going to disqualify COVID because that's way too easy of an answer.
Yeah. I think the most challenging thing has been really, it's less about the job and more about just being a new professional. I think has just been, like, seeing myself in that light of, like, being, when my students turn to me and ask me a question, I'm not a graduate assistant anymore that goes to my full-time professional with a question. I am trying to think on the dot right then of how can I help and support them. And I think that's been the most challenging thing of pushing me to really see myself as fully capable and a full-time advisor and here to support them. But it has been really good too, to, like, feel like I can look back and see the growth that I've had over this past year.
And I think too, the one thing I learned quickly, but not as quickly as I wish I did, is it's okay in that moment when you're getting used to that, is, like, being okay to say I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to find out. Mm-hmm. But, like, not feeling like you have to have every answer right away.
Oh yeah,
is something that took a while to figure out. Like, okay, you don't have to have the answer key all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Because I never want to let them down, but knowing that sometimes it's better to take that moment, pause, find the right answer than versus giving a quick one or a wrong answer.
Who's your favorite coworker?
Oh, I mean, that's easy. Probably my new roommates, Alexis
she's actually
and
answering
Dana.
it. I've been waiting for someone to actually answer this.
I will answer.
No one ever answers this question.
I love all of my coworkers, but I did just move in with 2 others from the office, so I just think that it's going to be great, and they're definitely at the top of the list.
All right.
Sorry,
Everyone
Billy.
else is going to have some thoughts. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will hurt everything else. So, last question in this segment. Next year will be a success for Emerge at Auburn
if I'm still getting to hear students have those answers about saying that they've been impacted or they feel more equipped to be a leader at Auburn because of what we've done.
All right. That is a good place to leave. Let's get professional.
Yeah.
As we get into our last segment, quote me on that. So we're just going to give a quote that we find meaningful, funny, thought-provoking, whatever you want it to be. No one has done all 3 yet. So challenge extended.
Ooh, yeah, I'm not going to hit
That's
all
going to
3.
be a tough one.
Yeah.
Mine's long. Mine's more of a story and less of a quote this time.
Okay.
Because I'm starting to have trouble finding quotes because I have one every week. So I'm taking a break from quotes. I'm going to do a story. And I think it kind of comes into something you just said. So it connects really well, kind of accidentally, of not being the person that can, like, have a full-time person to go run to, like you are that person now.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes along that theme because it's come up with students lately. It's about imposter syndrome. If you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's like people never fully feel like they're the expert and that they are, like, the authority on something.
Yeah, well,
even though they are.
I'll add too. I think imposter syndrome too. I think it's a lot more common than we think it is. You can be an expert. Like, you might be the person with the title in the room, but you can still absolutely not feel like you're worthy of that.
And that is what this story is. So, okay.
Just ready for it.
Did you read ahead somehow? So this is written in the first person. It is not my story. Like, clearly it is not my story. At an event where people who accomplished great things were invited, I was at the back of the room talking to an elderly gentleman. He said, I look at all these people here and all that they've accomplished and all that they've built, and I think, what the heck am I doing here? I just went where I was told to go. And I said, yeah, but where you were told to go was the moon, and you were the first person to ever do that. And then I thought, if Neil Armstrong felt like an imposter, maybe everyone did. Maybe there weren't any grown-ups. Only people who had worked hard and also got a little lucky and were slightly out of their depth, just doing the best they could, which is all any of us can hope for. And I like that because if Neil Armstrong feels like he doesn't belong in a room of people who have accomplished great things, literally having gone to the moon and back,
Yeah.
who isn't going to feel like an imposter sometimes?
I love that. Mm-hmm.
And I think about that with students because you see them come in as freshmen and you start to teach them things. You start to see them figure out their way. And I think a lot of times they don't realize how much they know. Mm-hmm. And they think, I better go check with my advisor. I better go check with my professor. I don't think I'm doing this right. But they know so much more than they think they do.
Always.
And I think about that with students of part of our job is like building their confidence, not just their skill set. And knowing that you might feel like an imposter, but understand how much skill you have and what you bring to the table.
No, absolutely.
So that's, quote me on that. Don't feel like an imposter even if you do. What do you got?
One of my favorite quotes that I think also too just has a lot of wisdom to it. So it's from Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa. I'm going to paraphrase it so I don't totally get it wrong overall. But it's like, what you do is less than a drop in the ocean. But if that drop were missing, the ocean would lack something. I think it's really easy when we're going through our day-to-day life to not feel like we're doing these big things that are affecting the world or affecting our whole community, but it actually does. That every choice that you make every single day affects someone somewhere. And I think that is a motivation to keep thinking about what you're doing and doing it intentionally, but also just to remember you're worth something no matter what it is that you're doing, whether you feel like it's large scale and you're creating change in a massive way here at Auburn, or you're just being part of a student organization and helping someone to feel like they belong in the Auburn community. That's important. It makes a difference for someone. So just keep knowing that you don't have to hit a measure for being like, for finding your value. You're already valued.
Quote her on that.
Quote me.
All right, and that seems like a good place to stop. Hannah, thanks for coming down, joining me today on Access Involvement. Enjoy getting to know a little bit more about you, letting our audience kind of see what Emerge does and your path to student involvement. Until next time, I'm Billy Ferris. This has been Access Involvement, where discovering your path is as easy as juggling a single ball in zero gravity.